Hello everyone. Have you ever wondered what happens when a great idea like the multipurpose health worker collapses under its own weight, and who steps in to fix it? Let us explore the Mukherjee Committee of 1965 and 1966 and understand how it redrew the architecture of India's public health. The Mukherjee Committee introduced a completely new approach built on parallel vertical tracks, moving away from combined duties toward the deliberate delinking of separate health functions. This committee was formed at the Madras Mandate on December 31st, 1965. The event took place at the Central Family Planning Council meeting in Madras. The leadership and council was headed by Union Health Secretary Shri B. Mukherjee and included state health secretaries from West Bengal, Maharashtra, Mysore, Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Uttar Pradesh, and Punjab. The directive given to this council was to urgently review staffing patterns, financial provisions, and additions necessary in the face of a rapidly altering demographic landscape. The scale of the challenge they faced was enormous. The macro threat was population growth colliding with fiscal reality. The target was to reduce the national birth rate from 41 per 1000 to 25 per 1000 within a strict 10-year window. But the obstacle was that mass public health programs were shifting into maintenance phases, starving rural health infrastructure of resources just as state budgets faced severe shortages. Making matters worse, 1965 brought a genuine supply chain collapse. A severe foreign exchange crisis acted as the macroeconomic trigger. This led to an import bottleneck, causing a massive shortage of condoms, which had been the primary reliance of the 1963 mass movement strategy. This resulted in programmatic paralysis as the Central Purchasing Scheme of May 1965 failed to procure and distribute supplies, crippling the mass education strategy. Facing this collapse, the health system pivoted toward a technological breakthrough, the IUCD. This device offered administrative independence, bypassing complex, failing daily distribution networks. It offered strong clinical efficacy, proving highly advantageous over sterilization for scaling a true mass movement. It allowed for easy institutional integration, being easily deployable across all existing maternal and child health centers and well baby clinics. Together, this made a national accelerated crash program feasible, but it also demanded a completely new staffing architecture. This exposed what can be called the Chadha collapse, the myth of the multipurpose worker. The diagnosis was clear. The 1963 Chadha Committee had mandated one basic health worker per 10,000 population to handle both complex duties simultaneously. The result was entirely impracticable. The sheer volume meant the worker could do justice to neither malaria surveillance nor family planning. This is where the Mukherjee Committee stepped in with the delinking and restructuring of basic health services in 1966. Its core objectives were threefold. First, to review and assess, evaluating operational challenges and staff performance under new demographic pressures. Second, to integrate technology, formulating a strategy to deploy the IUCD at an unprecedented national scale. Third, to formulate delivery, designing a workable staffing pattern for basic health services without collapsing under mass campaign weight. This represented a genuine philosophy shift from the Chadha Committee of 1963 to the Mukherjee Committee of 1966. Chadha's approach was horizontal and integrated, giving the worker a multi-purpose role handling all local health duties, where malaria and family planning were handled simultaneously by the same basic health worker, using shared peripheral staff. Mukherjee's approach was vertical and dedicated, giving the worker a specialized role with divided labor for national crises, where malaria and family planning were explicitly delinked, with family planning receiving undivided attention through separate, exclusive family planning assistants. To make this real, the frontline was restructured around clear population ratios. The health visitor served 1 per 40,000 population, mandated to supervise 4 auxiliary nurse midwives. The health assistant served 1 per 20,000 population. The basic health worker served 1 per 10,000 population, a ratio that could be reduced for difficult terrain, and this worker was explicitly restricted from family planning duties. The design intent was to provide a concrete, mathematically sound job chart related to clear objectives, preventing systemic overload. The primary health center itself was fortified to support this new structure. Unified command meant all separated vertical staff had to work under the overall control of a single primary health center medical officer. A single office meant a strict mandate for one unified headquarters to house all staff, ensuring coordination survived field separation. And the administrative fix was the critical addition of a dedicated primary health center clerk to handle data and returns, freeing medical staff for pure clinical work. To reach rural populations more effectively, the committee introduced mobile strike forces to scale the IUCD program. This meant maximum deployment, a strong mandate to utilize mobile IUCD units extensively to reach rural populations directly and bypass clinic friction. It meant preventing burnout, acknowledging that continuous mobile duty in rural terrain is exhausting and clinically stifling for physicians. And it meant a staff rotation system, mandating the structural interchange of staff between primary health center headquarters and mobile units to distribute workloads evenly. This entire structure was scaled beyond the block level. At the block level, the fortified primary health center acted as the peripheral engine. At the district level, district chief medical officers were empowered to strictly oversee accelerated crash programs. At the state level, dedicated state cells were established to manage the vertical flow of funding, supply chains, and rigid targets. The key insight here was that a crash mass movement cannot be managed by a weak middle management layer. The entire administrative spine required architectural reinforcement. The committee also expanded its mandate to take a holistic view. This meant addressing urban health services, recognizing that mass programs like malaria and smallpox were being dangerously neglected in urban zones during maintenance phases. It meant strengthening public health engineering, integrating critical sanitation and environmental engineering directly into the broader public health purview. And it meant engaging voluntary agencies, delegating grants, and relying on local leadership to transform a government directive into a true mass movement. The economics of this policy rested on a 50-50 formula. The burden was that states were facing fiscal bankruptcy trying to unilaterally fund the maintenance phases of malaria and other vertical campaigns. The solution was a 10-year financial strategy establishing a mandatory central state 50-50 funding mechanism for all additional restructuring staff. The caveat was that strict auditing rules prevented states from merely shifting existing staff into new roles to offload prior financial liabilities onto the center. The committee also worked to align incentives from the patient's perspective. Compensation was explicitly designed not as a bribe but to systematically cover loss of wages, transport charges, food, and incidental expenses. This meant 5 rupees for an IUCD insertion, 12 rupees for vasectomy or male sterilization, and 25 rupees for salpingectomy or female sterilization. Notably, the committee rejected direct government provision of transport and food as administratively unfeasible at scale. Incentives were also aligned from the doctor's perspective. Government doctors received guaranteed emolument protection, ensuring that doctors transferred to family planning or mobile duties did not lose standard allowances or house rent. Camp doctors received specific structured financial incentives provided directly for participating in mass-oriented service camps, overcoming rural deployment resistance. And private practitioners received a pragmatic compromise, being allowed to charge affluent patients private fees for insertions. While the government supplied loops for free, conditional on submitting vital statistics. However, this delinked model came with a real drawback, a maze of fragmented care. By strictly separating staff, rural areas became overwhelmed by disjointed vertical programs. A single household might receive separate, uncoordinated visits from a malaria worker, a smallpox worker, and a family planning assistant. This created a heavy administrative burden, as the central government's funding structures placed heavy financial pressure on state governments to maintain these separate, specialized silos during the maintenance phases of mass diseases. This fragmentation set off what can be called the policy pendulum swing. In 1963, the Chadha Committee pushed for total integration, creating the overloaded multipurpose worker. In 1965 and 1966, the Mukherjee Committee pushed for total separation, creating the fragmented vertical worker. In 1967, the Jungalwala Committee brought a conceptual correction, making the first attempt to functionally reintegrate general health, curative, and preventive services. And in 1973, the Kartar Singh Committee brought the definitive return, reinstating the multipurpose worker scheme, but this time engineered properly with corrected ratios derived from Mukherjee's own insights. The current significance of this committee lies in workforce realism. It stands as an administrative precedent, establishing the foundational framework for the ongoing debate between vertical, disease specific, and horizontal, comprehensive integration in India. It offers a historical lesson, proving categorically that frontline healthcare workers require realistic, mathematically sound workloads rather than idealized, crushing job descriptions. And it created the link to the National Health Mission, since this principle of workload realism and calculated population to worker ratios remains a core structural pillar of today's National Health Mission. To help remember the committee's key contributions, we can use the mnemonic MUKERJI. M stands for malaria delinking, completely separating malaria surveillance from family planning tasks. U stands for urban structure, establishing dedicated basic health services in urban centers targeting malaria and smallpox. K stands for key incentives, introducing calculated financial compensations for patients and private or camp doctors. E stands for exclusivity of staff, appointing separate dedicated staff specifically for family planning duties. R stands for realistic workloads, limiting basic health workers to non-family planning tasks and firmly capping population coverage at 10,000. J stands for joint services, utilizing single unified units for administrative, laboratory, and health education services at district levels to prevent duplication. And I stands for integration phasing, planning for the eventual gradual integration of vertical mass campaigns like tuberculosis, leprosy, and cholera into a cohesive basic health service once they reach maintenance phases. Hope you have understood about the Mukherjee Committee. If you found this video useful, please like and share with your friends and colleagues. Thank you.